This is SoulCharge, the podcast for women leaders to take the highest level of ownership of their power to create results now. I'm your host, Stacy B. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, podcast listeners, to truly one of the most powerful episodes you are ever going to listen to here at SoulCharge. I'm joined with Ryann Dowdy, the Chief Activator and Lead Consultant, alongside me at SoulCharge. Welcome, Ryan. Hi, Stacy. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited about this episode. And what we're going to dive into today is around the leap of faith and the leap of faith that you have been wanting to take, and maybe why you haven't been able to take it, and actually how taking a leap of faith is the thing that's holding you back. Woo! Let's dive in. So, Brad. So Ryan and I were in this conversation, and we felt it was so powerful that we just wanted to bring it to all of you podcast listeners, because how many of you in your life at some point knew you needed to take a leap of faith? You knew that the leap of faith was what you needed to lean into, and it was around trusting yourself, trusting your creator. And really what we've uncovered is how that leap of faith is limiting us in a lot of ways. I'd love to kick us off by share with us what a leap of faith means to you, and like where you started with the term leap of faith. I'd love to start there.
Yeah. So a leap of faith to me has always meant to be free to jump and trust that you will be caught. But again, going back to this whole conversation, it was always by someone else, right? It's a leap of faith into a new career, right? And trust that the career will help you soar, or a leap of faith into God and trust that God will help you soar, or a leap of faith into a relationship and trust that that other person will make you soar or help you soar. So to me, a leap of faith has always been about trusting in something else. And I've never articulated that before, right? But it was just, and by definition, right, the word faith is a belief in the unknown. But again, if our leap of faith is into the unknown, it means that there is somebody or something else on the other side of that.
Yes. Yeah. And I would say the way that I have used a leap of faith is, as far as like the language I've used in the past, is like leaning in or trusting. But in that statement of just trust. And really, I even go back to, what's that Peter Pan saying? Just trust and add some pixie dust. Like, I actually had that on my wall many years ago, right? Of just this like playful reminder of just trust. But unconsciously or even subconsciously, what was happening there is just put your faith in something unknown. Same as you said. It's like the leap of faith. It's just let go and almost hope for the best. But in that hoping, what happens is we are subconsciously choosing to be victim to hope, right? Or put our power outside of us instead of what we're going to propose on this podcast to really blow people's minds. But it's fascinating thinking of these like little nuances, because as women leaders, it's not about the doing. It's about these little things that you're doing and excusing yourself from levels of ownership that are ready for you to claim.
Yeah, because when you say it, like you said, it's the same thing as the word surrender. To me, has always felt uncomfortable. And not in a surrender isn't give up surrender, but surrender to what? Yeah, again, surrender, faith, those are all words that put a power outside of you, right? And again, that wasn't even really clear till we had this conversation today, right? That all of those words to me still had an external connotation.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so what I love about this conversation is, I want to touch on what you just said. There's a difference between this like letting go and allowing, which is what I hear you saying when you say surrender. Like there's an allowing, a release of control. But what we're saying is, in the creation process, when you are allowing, is there an element of you still having the decision outside of you? where you're saying that you're saying that you're taking a leap of faith, but what you're really saying is, I can't do it, or I don't know how to do it, or you're somehow cultivating doubt in potentially that leap of faith.
What came up for me when you just said that, Stacy, was the idea of if it's meant to be, it will be, right? Like to me, that's more of a leap of faith or a surrender, right? If it's meant to be, it will be. And again, I play no part in this energy, right? And again, I also want to clarify for all of you listening right now, because this is not about there not being other beings helping us, right? This is not about the non-physical not playing a part here, but it's not owning your part, right? So what one of us are proposing is, we're not saying not to trust in God, not to surrender to God, not to surrender to a situation, not to take your hands off the wheel, like whatever term resonates with you. We're not saying that there is not a higher power at play here. We're saying you have to own your part in it as well. And I think oftentimes when people say leap of faith or surrender or let go or allow, those are all ways where we abdicate our power to that higher being, whatever one you believe in, instead of owning your role in it.
Yes. And I think that's really what we're trying to highlight for you that are listening right now is the question we want to ask is, are you taking full ownership of what you want to create? And I actually want to say that differently. Are you taking ownership of your ownership? Because we were talking about this example earlier where it's almost, are you doing your part up to your white picket fence on your property and then allowing your co-creator, source, God, universe, whatever it is you believe in, to do their part? And a lot of times what we find is that when we're saying take a leap of faith, we're not doing our part that is so pivotal in the creation. And I think that's what we're trying to highlight for you is there is a next level of ownership that's up for you to take that is doing your part in the creative process.
Yeah. And where I also want to give you that story to give you a clearer picture. Stacey was talking about relationship, right? Like in this instance, right now, we're talking about the relationship with you and your creator. But also, if we look at this with our spouse or your partner or a friend or a family member or even a client, right? It's in those relationships, there's this beautiful harmony was the word you used earlier, Stacey, which I really love. In I own my part of the fence, you own yours. And then we commingle, right? That's what is really being proposed here is this idea of you playing your part, right? And letting your creator play their part. And then we commingle together in this beautiful co-creation. And so it's the same idea of you would never expect a relationship for somebody to take care of their side of the fence and for you to do nothing and expect that relationship to thrive, right? Expect that person to show up for you, expect that person to support you, expect that person to love you, right? If you're not doing your part to contribute to the relationship. And I think that was such a beautiful representation that you were talking about with the fence is this idea of, yeah, like I'm responsible for me, you're responsible for you. And yeah, if you're not coming to meet me in this, relationships don't thrive. And so this is a beautiful relationship with you and your creator. That's what I heard you say. We were talking about this earlier, right? Like we both have to take care of, own our roles and leaps of faith and surrender and let go is sometimes like we're just tossing the ball over the fence and praying that somebody catches it.
Yes, yes. And what we're saying is carry the ball to the fence and hand it over.
Yeah.
And I think I want to just walk through with the listeners just for a moment. Now, of course, if you're driving, don't do this, but do it later. Is I want you to close your eyes and feel what it feels like in your body when I say to you, I'm taking a leap of faith. And then close your eyes and feel in your body what it feels like when I say, I decide, I own, I am the creator. You can tell even in my voice, there's a different resonance between the two of the sound. I'm taking a leap of faith versus I am the creator. I own this. I have decided.
I had a beautiful conversation earlier today with a woman leader who was in that place where she said something like, I don't want to get my hopes up. That's what she told me. I don't want to get my hopes up. And I'm like, that's the point. We need to stop hoping and you need to start deciding. I don't want you to get your hopes up either. I want you to decide. I want you to commit. I want you to be all in on you. Like in that conversation, it was, what's the decision? The decision is to trust yourself. And that to me is the difference between that hope energy, right? Like even in a positive way, right? Like this one was like, well, I don't want to get my hopes up in a somewhat resigned kind of way versus this idea of, and again, hope is a more positive emotion than fear. Let's start there. But it's also not what is going to get you to that next level, right? It's definitely going to improve your odds, but it's not going to close that gap between you and where you want to go like a decision will, right? Like a commitment will, like ownership will. And to me, faith just leaves that tiny little crack for somebody else to maybe be in charge of what happens here.
Yes, yes. And what was so interesting is when we were polling these women leaders about this question or exercise, rather, that we're asking you all to do, is when we asked the women leaders earlier, what does it feel like in your body when you take a leap of faith? Their answers were mind bending.
Yeah.
Their answers were, I feel fear. It feels like the unknown. I feel anxious. And then when we asked them, what does it feel like with your eyes closed in your body? I own, I've decided I am the creator. Their answers were, I feel calm. I feel resolved. I feel alive.
Empowered.
Empowered was another one. And this is so powerful because, like, when we're talking about manifestation and identity work and all of that, if you take one thing away from this podcast today, like, if you can start identifying and being in the energy of, I own, I decide, I am the creator, that is the ultimate shift. It's the ultimate upgrade, right?
2 years later, baby.
2 years later, baby, we have arrived. And what's the hashtag? IYK, IYK. No. Okay, those that are listening. No. But like, this is so powerful because the external world is responding to you. And we often hear it's responding to our thoughts and our beliefs. But the ultimate root, the ultimate weed that you could pull, if you could pull out of your garden, is this leap of faith energy, because on some level, you are validating that you don't trust fully.
To me, it's the difference between possibility and done.
Yeah.
Right? Like so many of those things, they sound good because they open your mind to possibility, right? All of these things that we talk about are like, oh, open to all like the thing. I think so many people, when they study this work, and I know this was very true for me, was this idea of opening our mind to possibility, which is beautiful and important. And it is a very lovely step on the journey. But there is a difference between it is possible and it is done. And I think so many people live in that land of possibility, myself included, for a very long time. Of this work taught me anything is possible. But what wasn't coming all the way through my whole body was this idea of it's done. It's not just possible, it's done. And that's what this is about, the leap of faith versus the expectation, right? Those are two different things. A leap of faith is, yeah, again, I hope maybe somebody will catch me, versus the expectation is that I'm going to pull the chute and the chute's going to fly, period.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yes. And here's what's so interesting. And for those of you that are listening, I really want to encourage you to take this one thing that we're about to talk about and audit your life with it. One thing that is happening right now for all of you, if you feel that there is a level of take the leap of faith energy going on, and there is a lack of results or maybe even a delay in results in your life that on some level you're experiencing, we can track it all back to how direct you are being. And I think it's interesting because one of the things that you and I were talking about, Rye, earlier today was, and yesterday too, was this idea of part of the SoulCharge mission and work is the direct nature, not only of the people leading the company and the coaches in the company, but also the direct nature of the curriculum and the results through that curriculum. And I think that when you are in a leap of faith, or you're in that energy of, I just need to trust, there is something that you're not saying. There's someone or something you're not dealing with. There's something you're avoiding. There's some way that you're tiptoeing. And so you need to have a leap of faith where if you said the thing that you want to say and did the damn thing you want to do, no leap of faith required because you're deciding and it's congruent in all areas of your life.
Game on.
And that's why this is a short fucking episode.
When Stacy D's dropping F-bombs on the podcast, it's real good.
Is that okay to do? Don't give a shit.
Can we tell the sparkly tennis shoe story? Because
Let's end with that. Yes.
so beautiful. So Stacy and I had the amazing opportunity to spend some time together in person, which we don't get to do nearly often enough. We should fix that. And we were taking photos, which you guys will all see because they're so good. And Stacy had on these beautiful sparkly black tennis shoes, and they were so much fun. And we were talking about, I think this is cool brand wise for us because Stacy has just a little bit more like polish and poshness than I do. I tend to be a little more casual. Like right now, this shirt is cute, but it's definitely bought in the athleisure department of Academy School. Just telling you that now. But anyway, so she was like, I think that's a great way to marry our styles, sparkly tennis shoes. And so we talked about sparkly tennis shoes. And I was like, awesome. I'm speaking at an event next week. I need to go get some sparkly tennis shoes. And we live in Texas and she goes to Idaho and I go to Kansas City. And I impromptu pop into a shoe store, not planned, didn't leave the house to go look at shoes. But there's a shoe store. And I went inside and I found these incredible Betsy Johnson sparkly animal print tennis shoes, which if Ryann, Dowdy, like animal print has just been part of my brand since I was like 16 years old. There's legit a picture of me carrying an animal print purse in like my junior year of high school. And I was like, these are the shoes. So I snap a picture. I send them to Stacy. And I'm like, they don't have them in my size. I'm going to have to order them online. And I walk out of the shoe store and Stacy's calling me. And I answer the phone. She goes, I have to tell you something. And this really quiet voice, it freaked me out a little bit. I'm like, what? She was like, I bought you those shoes. And I was like, okay, cool. She's like, no, before you sent me the picture, I bought you those shoes. They're on their way to your house. And it was mind-boggling. Like, we'd done some weird and wild shit our time together, but it was like, before you ask, it is done, right? Like, I love that was the first thing that came to mind. Before you ask, it is done. Because all I had to do was say, I wanted some sparkly tennis shoes. I didn't have to go find them. I didn't have to search for them. I didn't have to order them. They just showed up. And that's the level. That's how I understand the magic that we're talking about right now. And I'm using that word very intentionally, is the magic of all I had to do was point. That was it. That frankly, I didn't have to go to I didn't have to go to the shoe store. I just happened to pop in. Yes. And that's the level of certainty and expectation is, of course, I will have animal prints, sparkly shoes by the time we'll leave for Albuquerque to go to this event. Period.
Yeah. And we will leave you with that on today's episode because there's no reason to go into anything else. Your clarity and your decision is all that you need to worry about.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Are you loving SoulCharge? If so, hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and share an episode. We want to bring powerful content to women leaders each week so that women can be unleashed to create the results that they want now. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.